Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us on KREM 2 News First at 4. I'm Tom Sherry.
It's good to have you here. I'm Whitney Ward. Well, starting tomorrow, employees who are exposed to the extreme heat outside will now have more protections. The Washington Department of Labor and Industries recently filed an emergency rule outlining steps that employers must take to prevent outdoor workers from suffering heat-related illness.
KREM 2's Amanda Rowley has more on the impacts of this new rule. Amanda.
Well, working in the direct sun on extreme heat days like we're having this week, it's not only unbearable, but it can be dangerous. And that's why the new emergency outdoor heat rule identifies proactive steps as simple as providing shade for employees to make sure that they stay cool on hot, really hot days. Now, the new rule applies to people working in agriculture, construction, and other outdoor industries. And that's because many of these employees work in the direct sun for long periods of time. Now, depending on the outdoor temperature, employers must ensure workers have a paid cool down rest period. It has to be at least 10 minutes every 2 hours. They must also provide water and shade to cool down in. Some employers told me today the rules are common sense and they already have some of these in practice. Now, the Water Resources Division of the Spokane Conservation District employs several people who work regularly outdoors. They also train their staff on heat safety annually, but they say the shade component may be a challenge for other industries to provide.
Confirming that they have a spot to take a break, I think, is the big shift, right? That's a big, difficult thing that not everybody across industries can do.
Nothing beats being inside in air conditioning, obviously, and that's another good thing about my job here is that I have it readily available. I can take a break and go inside.
And that's Rich Scara. He maintains the Conservation District's nursery, which has large shaded areas to cool down in. Every day, he told me he carries a 20-ounce water bottle in his back pocket and refills it at least 10 times or more a day. Now, Washington's outdoor heat exposure rules takes effect tomorrow. And if you're looking for more information on what your employer must do to protect you in the excessive heat days, we have that information on krem.com. Just text us the word heat to 448-2000. Reporting in Spokane Valley, Amanda Rowley, KREM 2 News.
Well, how to handle the heat has also been a topic of debate between Spokane City Council and the mayor recently. The mayor says the city's plan to provide cooling centers is sufficient. Several council members say that's not.
So tonight they will vote on an ordinance that would require a broader, more detailed plan from the city. Our political reporter Casey Decker is joining us now in the newsroom to break that down. So Casey, why is this even so controversial in the first place?
Yeah, well, Whitney, Tom, part of why is that it originally actually dealt not only with cooling centers, but with the city's wider homelessness response. And Mayor Nadine Woodward felt council was trying to push through major changes to the sheltering system without getting enough public feedback first. So she called a meeting last week to gather some of that input. And after tons of people weighed in, city council members made some changes to the ordinance. Namely, they split it into two proposals. One that deals only with emergency shelters like cooling centers, warming centers, and clean air centers for when it's smoky, and the other one that makes broader changes to shelter policy. That second one, shelter policy, that won't be voted on for at least a couple weeks, so let's go ahead and just focus on the first one right now. Here are the main changes it would make to current emergency policy. One, rather than requiring cooling centers only when Spokane has 3 straight days of 100+ degree weather, it would now be 2 days of 95 degree weather. 2, it requires that all warming and cooling center spaces be low barrier, meaning they can't require people to do things like attend church services or pass a drug test. 3, it specifies that emergency shelter space needs to be enough to meet all the need of the vulnerable people in the city. And finally, it requires that the city maintain contracts year-round so that they're ready to go when extreme weather eventually strikes. Now, like we mentioned, the mayor has argued all of this is unnecessary because not that many people actually showed up to the cooling centers. But at the meeting she called, some advocates argued that wasn't because of a lack of need for the spaces, but rather a lack of accessibility. Either people didn't know about the centers, they had difficulty getting there, or they just didn't feel welcome. City Council is scheduled to vote on this proposal in their 6 p.m. meeting tonight. Whitney, Tom?
Going to be interesting, Casey. Thank you very much for the update. In the meantime, that heat advisory now in effect for much of the inland Northwest from today all the way through Wednesday evening, basically, it sounds like. So we're not talking about like record breaking like we were, but still pretty darn hot.
Oh, too hot for us,
Yeah.
I think. And in the Central Basin, especially, temperatures again over 100 degrees. We're going to be knocking on the door of 100 degrees. So everywhere you see shaded in orange right there, Whitney, that's the heat advisory that you mentioned through 8 p.m. Remember, we've got fires burning down in southeastern Washington and northeastern Oregon. Most of the wind is blowing towards the east, though. So where you see shaded in gray, that's an air quality warning. Folks in Moscow, Idaho, and Lewiston, especially over the weekend, they saw really smoky conditions, and combined with the heat, just not a good situation to be in. And then we're expecting possibility of some thunderstorms along the Canadian border and the east slopes of the Cascades. So that area shaded in green. It's actually a flash flood watch for some heavy runoff there, especially in areas that already suffered from fires last year, and they still haven't gotten any vegetation back. It's hot, 96 degrees, not much in the breeze department, only 3-mile-per-hour east-northeasterly wind out there. We'll look for temperatures to drop down to 63 this evening, 99 the expected high on Tuesday. And again, it will be hazy. We're going to get some of that wildfire smoke in our area. We don't think we'll see the air quality get down into the unhealthy range, but you should see haze, pretty kind of like what you saw over part of the weekend. And then for the weekend, it does cool down on Saturday to 87, but gosh, we get right back on that roller coaster heading back uphill. 93 the expected high on Sunday. I'll have the rest of your 7-day forecast all coming up in just a few minutes.
All right, Tom, thank you. And amid all that heat, today we are also tracking a number of wildfires still burning here across the inland Northwest. There's a 7-mile stretch of the North Cascades Highway on State Route 20 that is now actually closed, and that's just so fire crews can work on wildfire there in that entire area. So the closure is located about 20 miles west of Winthrop. It's between Silver Star and Early Winters Campground. This is between milepost 170 and 177. The Cedar Creek fire right now is causing this closure. It's burning 5 miles southwest of Mazama. It's burned about 75 acres so far, but 0% contained. It was started by lightning, and the original plan was for crews to close only 2 miles of road, but then it was extended, and that's just so that they can manage the fire better. Drivers, though, can use US 2 or I-90 as a detour. No estimated reopening time, though, for that roadway. And it's not a lot of people who live in that particular area, but it is a lot of recreation, outdoor recreation that takes place all along there. So certainly a lot of people in that area will be affected.
Well, we are tracking the Burbank fire. That's burning south of Moses Lake. Right now, the westbound Sela Creek Rest area is closed. Today, there are controlled burns that are happening right below the Fred G. Redmond Bridge. The right westbound lane is closed. Authorities are asking drivers to be cautious of emergency vehicles. Pay attention, and please don't slow down to take photos.
And there have also been reports of looting in the evacuation areas along the Snake River. The Nez Perce Sheriff's Office has now been patrolling through that area just to try and ensure that evacuated homes in that area don't get broken into while those residents are away. In a statement, the sheriff actually issued a warning to any potential looters who might have ideas in that area. He said, if anyone dares to try and take advantage of this situation by stealing, let this be a warning to you. My deputies are good, and they will not leave stones unturned to bring you to justice. We will find you. They are also encouraging people, if they see any suspicious people or vehicles in the area, please call 911 right away and let them know so that they can continue keeping those homes safe. Again, we know this is a lot of information on the wildfires and the evacuation orders. Here at KREM, we've been working 24/7 just to make sure that you have the most up-to-date information. You can stay in the know always by texting the word FIRE to 509-448-2000. We'll send you a link right here to our updates.
Well, Major League Baseball, the draft is going on, and college players from our region have been selected. Up next, which local college players heard their name called and one who made some history? Next.